possible as can. If he goes on a, I'll say that's okay. Well, it's up to you. Do you want?
Well, no, I just asked you where you want.
It doesn't really matter, does it?
No, you take a seat. No, you take a seat.
Holy hell.
Oh.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Sunday's SFL panel. This is your opportunity, whether you're at home or here at the convention, to basically ask us anything in terms of the league or anything else. I'm receiving questions through Discord DM. If you're on the convention floor, you can stand up and shout them out if you would like. And I guess I'll start with Eddie Gage, who sent in a question. After all these successful seasons, what the hell else does Eddie Gage have to do to get in the Hall of Fame? I'm feeling like Terrell Owens over here. What do you think, Prez?
Play harder. That's it.
Wow.
Maybe improve to a third scoop.
A third scoop? Possibly. All right, anybody got anything for us? Who wants to know something? Oh, yeah, sure, I'll introduce everybody. Jermaine Smith, President, Hall of Famer, if you haven't met him already. Golf clap. Andy Hamilton, he's the Director of Digital Content Social Media. Liam Crowder is our webmaster.
Wow. There's a lot of claps for the website.
And I do everything else. No, I'm the commissioner. Okay. T-Pat has a question. Go ahead, T-Pat. What's the next step, basically, is what you're asking, T-Pat? Well, I think that Andrew Rastelli and I, competition committee, we're going to be talking about next week how to even improve the rookie experience, the rookie draft, and how they build up their initial rating. We want it to be more interactive. We want it to be more of a celebration. We want to be able to get film on these players prior to them coming into the league to boost up that sort of draft presentation and really get these guys fired up about being in the league. So we're going to be presenting some things to the competition committee. They're going to have a good month to decide. We'll probably announce that system midway through the season because we really feel like it's important when players initially come into the league. If depending upon the time they get here, they might be able to get on the team next week. Some people have to wait a couple of months. It's not really fair. We understand that. And the people that do wait, we want there to be really good reasons why they would want to wait. And so that's kind of that next step and next evolution. And I was actually talking with Easy Temple yesterday about some other things that, improving just our interaction with all of these new faces, being more knowledgeable and providing better education on exactly what this is. Obviously, the convention was a big part of that this week, just gathering that content to make that job a little easier. I'd love to pass it to some other panel members. Maybe they have some thoughts or ideas or hopes of the next step of where this goes. Anybody got anything?
I mean, from a website perspective, it's we've had about 3 full redesigns of how the website's looked. When I originally came on board and started working with Cam and Andrew to put all the integrated stats onto the website, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just do this and then that'll be it. And then the next season after that, I had another full redesign, and then this season we've gone again and done another full redesign. So I'm hoping this one's going to be the last, but I'm pretty sure I say that and then I've said that the last 2 times as well. So I'm sure there'll probably be another big change on the website to come up. But at the moment, really, it's just refining what we've got and getting everything in shape and getting all the stats entered that still need to be entered and changed up. So we're looking to do stuff like timelines for games, so you can see when touchdowns were stuff which is already in there. It's not easy. I'm sure you guys would understand. It's not easy to run the site, and certainly a lot of things around the league. I'm sure Destro and Cam would say the same, in that you have to be very precise, and I think that's something we've always done very well, and I'm hoping it's something we'll continue to do well. So, yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Shall we move on? All right, James Klein from the audience asks, how often is your plan to hold a convention and a Hall of Fame class? So we'd like to make this a yearly thing. It doesn't necessarily always have to be in Dallas. I know we got a lot of people on the East Coast, and a lot of people on the East Coast that couldn't come simply because it was just such a far drive or fly. We also plan to do the Hall of Fame just once a year. I don't think there's a big need to do it every single season, and we'd like to do it at a place like this that makes sense. By the way, Scully is on the live stream today, if anybody's wondering why he's here, assisting in the panel process, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. That's kind of the goal, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Andy, you want to? Can we possibly get these closer? Do you know?
Yeah.
Can you adjust that while I pull up the next question? I just want to make sure people can hear them, everybody at home. So Marcus Dunhill says, what did the league think about the draft process, providing enough talent, and will you consider another draft in the offseason? Yeah, the draft was great. I think everyone enjoyed the draft. No, Mike Daggs did not enjoy the draft. Definitely 2 nights next year. Definitely splitting those rounds up. But no, the draft was really good. You know, I'd love to hear Andy's perspective on it, just because he's an owner in the league. But I think that it really helped the hype, and it helped establish players. It helped make the gap wider between the players that are super active and the players that weren't necessarily. What did you think about the draft, Andy?
Yeah, I thought the draft was really an interesting way for not only the players to enter the league, but for some of the owners to kind of get who they wanted, where they wanted. I thought we had everything that the NFL draft had, with some of the surprises of players falling, some late trades that really impacted teams as we moved forward, and some guys who thought their value might have been lower based on where they were selected got selected a little bit higher. So I think it gave a good opportunity for players to enter and have a great product and a great way to enter and kind of cement themselves as some of the next stars of the league. And I think moving forward, it's something that is fun and it's something that is part of our history too. I remember I was talking with Shan about when we were in Carolina with James, how we had a draft then, and that was one of the more fun experiences we had as owners. So to have that every year would be a really cool thing.
Go ahead, Liam.
I think probably the one thing I would take away from it is before the draft this time, we had a lot of content coming out from the beat writing team, and I know Slim put a lot of effort into that, but I think very much what you're going to find is the process next time we have a draft, if it's like next season or season after that or whenever. I think what you'll find is now that we've had one, people have got a better understanding of how the draft kind of played out. So you see someone who drops quite significantly, not necessarily because they're a bad guy or because they haven't got the value that you may say want from a particular player, that kind of person, people will be able to account for someone like that in the mock draft. So I think probably the only other thing I would really say about the draft is I got two things. One thing is probably personality of players comes into it quite a bit, because what we did in London was very much we focused less on value of the player and more on just getting guys who would be good in the locker room, and I think that's really paid off for us. We had like one of the most active locker rooms, if not the most active locker room in the league. And I think the second thing is I would definitely split it up, because if I have to stay up until 4 a.m. in the morning again, I think I'll probably quit the league. But like, that's just me. Like,
T-Pat? Destro, can you say the question in the mic for everybody at home so they know what you're answering?
All right, to answer the question, can you hear me? All right. Well, basically, the first part of that question is, right now, currently, Havo is creating a new version editor from scratch. He's going to start everything over, and so that's currently what he's doing. Now, as for my part in that, we're still trying to go inside the editor, trying to discover new things. We're trying very hard to find where to access those playbooks, not only for us to where we can be able to have the playbooks to be selectable inside the editor versus having to punch it in on a controller on the Xbox side, but also try to access the playbooks for the computer player so that we can have one roster file to manage instead of having to juggle around 3. So that's the first part. Now, the second part of your question about if we ever go to another game, is that what you're saying? That will be something that the commission and I will have to discuss at another time, and if there's a better option down the road, then we'll discuss it. As of right now, we don't have an idea on how to access that. It's probably somewhere in the editor. Within the hex code. I've always tell people that there's still mysteries inside that file that we haven't discovered, and I know eventually one day we will. Hopefully, maybe some guys at 2K Sports will leak some information out. Hopefully, but until then, we just keep doing what we're doing.
James Klein asks, he'd like to know the vision of the league from Liam, Andy, and Destro. So, Liam, why don't you start us off where you see things?
I mean, for me, I focus very much solely on the kind of website side of things, and that does interplay. I think probably the great relationship I have with the rest of the league staff, like with Cam and so on, I very much get the direction down from someone like Cam and kind of go from there. So it's very much facilitating what he would like on the website side of things. I mentioned before, like, the timelines in terms of being able to see when exactly stuff has happened in the game. But I think probably for me it's going to be just working on presentation and just ironing out maybe some of the site issues. I know I've been fixing stuff whilst I've been over here, or trying to fix stuff and just continue to address issues that we might have. I think we're in a pretty good place. I think probably the one underwhelming part of the website at the moment is the shop facility, but we've been working with James and we're looking to get some sort of solution in place for that, because stuff like that is obviously very valuable to the league's growth, and like you've seen the stuff that James has produced. We want to get that out to a bigger audience because it deserves to be. I think that would, I mean, for my part, I think I wouldn't be out here if I didn't think the league could go big places. I probably would have just sat at home and just laid in bed or whatever. I mean, that probably would have saved me quite a bit of jet lag, but it probably wouldn't have been much fun. But no, I think I can see the league going on for years to come. I mean, the Sim League, I've been in esports league for other sports, and like 10 seasons over the course of about probably 3 or 4 years, would you say? That's seriously impressive stuff. And I don't see any reason why it can't continue to grow and go onwards and onwards. And like when the first evening that I came in and spoke to Cam, he knows that he's had this dream for a long time that it would work. So I think onwards and upwards, really.
I think for me, I see this league as an opportunity for not only people to be owners, coaches, but for the person who can't make a football team for various reasons. For me, it was too small, too short, too many good players in the city I was in. It gives me the opportunity to experience football the same way that someone who's 6'3" and fast can experience football. And I think we're getting into the age where concussions are a big part of the conversation, and mental health for football players. And I think this league provides a solid opportunity for people to avoid that issue altogether, but still enjoy a great sport. So from a social media standpoint, right now our goal is marketing. Our goal is pushing the league to as many people that we can find and get on the other end of the tweets and the posts we put out to experience the product, because like Liam was saying, we're in a really good spot with our presentation. Cam works really hard on the graphics and the live presentation of games and stuff, so I don't see any reason that our 300 person league right now should not be at 700 to 1,000 people. And it will be at some point. I truly believe that. I just think we have to reach the people. I've always said, if you don't see something happening, you're never going to get involved. So when we are trying to engage people on social media, we're trying to show them our product essentially. And it just comes down to the more people that see it, the more people that'll get involved. So like Liam said, I see 5-10 years down the road, and I think we're in a really good spot now. And who knows where we could be in 2 or 3 years.
I feel like we're on the forefront of something big. There's nothing that's out right now that's like us. Others have tried to duplicate us, and they can't. I'm not throwing shade there. I'm just keeping it real. And so that's how I feel. And so the way I say it is this: we have good people around us. We have Cam. He's running this whole ship. We have myself, the hexing part. We have Lamb doing the website, and everyone else that I haven't mentioned. They're doing their part. They're doing their due diligence, to make sure that this league runs properly and proficiently. And so as long as we have good people, not just behind the scenes, but the commentators and you all, the fans, and as long as we put that word out there and we spread the word out to everyone else, say, look, we got something great coming out here, join us. And that's basically it. And the sky's the limit, in my personal opinion.
Just a couple of questions left, and then we're going to bring our next panel up here. Optimus Klein asks, for Military Appreciation Week, what are your thoughts on allowing players to switch jersey numbers to honor family members that have served in the military? So if you missed it on the schedule release show, we want to do a Military Appreciation Week. I believe it's week 7, but I'll have to double check that. I believe it's week 7. After this convention is over, we're going to be searching far and wide for a great military partner who we can put together some great packages with in support of them and their organizations. We'll take any and all suggestions you have for Military Appreciation Week, see what we can easily do and accomplish, or manage and accomplish during that week, and try to make it something that really is special and becomes a tradition. We have a lot of people involved in the military in this league, or previously involved in the military, and so I think it's important, and it makes sense for us to honor the military, considering that a lot of military guys love football and never got to play because they were serving our country, or maybe stopped playing because they decided to serve our country. So that answers that question. And then finally, Dwayne Schindler asked a good one. He said, What is your favorite part of the job and the least favorite thing? That's to everyone in the panel. Does anybody want to start off?
I don't have all day. No, I'm just playing. I just like, I don't know. It's part of who I am personally. You know, as some of you know, I'm a general manager of a bagel shop, and I'm all about helping people and not only just delegating things to people, but also I like to sit down and teach, show, train, develop people, and that's what I do when it comes to this hexing. And you know, the other day, or just yesterday, I was showing Connie Rockefeller. He didn't know how to hex. We're back in the corner. He has his laptop. I'm just showing him what to do, and that's what I love about this league is that there's guys who will email me or they'll PM me and say, Jermaine, how do I do this? And they'll say, oh, I don't mean to bother you. Say, no, you're not bothering at all. Not at all. I love doing this. I want to show you because, you know, there'll be one day to where I cannot do this anymore, and someone's got to be able to come in and fill my shoes. And so the league has to go on. It's got to continue. And I understand that. And me being an unselfish person, I recognize that. So it's like, you know, teach the next man. It's like that whole saying, you know, give the man, give him some fish, he'll eat it. And the next day, and you train him, and he'll feed himself eventually. And so that's my mindset at the moment. Is that's what I like doing. And as for the least thing, I mean, what is at least just maybe someone stressing me how come their shoe tape's not on their generic player, you know. I'm sorry, non-star, excuse me, that's terminology, non-star player. So, but that's about it, man. Like I said, the main thing, the good outweigh, there's not even any bad whatsoever. It's just the good, the great outweighs any little minor inconveniences at all. And I greatly appreciate each and every one of you.
Yeah, for me, I would say along the same lines. From a social media standpoint, I really enjoy watching our engagement numbers and our follower base grow because I think I recognize that we all at one point had no idea what this thing was, short of Eric Barkley, who's been with you forever, Cam. But we all at some point had to find the league in one way or another, and for a lot of us that was stumbling upon a broadcast of some kind. But now we've reached the point where we're broadcasting so often, and we're reaching a point where anyone who's we're still finding people that way, but it's a lot less frequent than it used to be. From the standpoint that a lot of us who were searching for games like this have found us. So I think from a social standpoint, for me, it's just trying to get more people involved because I see that the next level of coaches and owners and players are out there somewhere, and it's part of my job as social media to help push the league and try and get it into their hands. So that's really a positive for me is seeing people coming in. I like after we have big broadcasts, I always ask Andrew how many people we had join the introductions channel, just because I like numbers like that. And I agree with Destro. There's really no, heavily negative side. I guess maybe remaking the media guide 4 times in 2 days was rough. I do it for fun. I do it for myself as much as I do it for the league as a whole. And I believe that we're going places, and my role in that is very important.
I think probably for me it's the feeling of kind of accomplishment in being able to help and to be able to contribute to the league's success. Like, I think probably the way in which my involvement with the league has progressed, like it's gotten to obviously this stage where I'm able to come out and see you guys and to be able to engage in something like a convention, and I think that's really great, like to push the boundaries of what I have been doing previously. I think probably the worst thing would be having to reconfigure all the stats because they've been reordered by an update or something like that on the website, like sitting about for about an hour and like tearing my hair out because I can't figure out why it has done this and like cursing Cam's name or something. Like, but no, I think it's pretty much outweighed like 10 times over by just like the amount of stuff that I do in the league. I mean, I think both for myself and Andy and Destro previously being owners in the league as well, I think it just adds a whole other element. I mean, I'm a pretty sore loser, but I think certainly like being involved in the SFL has helped me overcome it to a certain degree, because even when I lose, I know that the league is progressing as a whole as part of us being involved. So, yeah.
My favorite part of the job is just that I get to live my dream. It is what I always wanted it to be, and that's because of all of you. And so I never forget that every day, because I get to have what I always wanted in that respect. I think the least favorite part are those days where the 14, 15-hour days to make sure nobody knows how close we've come on certain weeks to just not having games that day because it's 2 hours before kickoff and a sim is running, and I'm thinking to myself, hope this Xbox doesn't freeze, or we're going to be putting out a notice that we're going to be on delay. And those days are hard. People don't really understand what's going on all on the back end, and become frustrated, annoyed, if something's running behind, or if something's not working right, or this, that, or the other. It's a hard job. It's a lot of work. I understand people's impatience and frustration. We should be a perfect product all the time, but we know we can't. And so that's hard, because I want everyone to enjoy themselves all the time. And that's a tough part of the job, knowing that I know that that's not going to happen, and I just have to live with that and do the best that I can. Thanks all for. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions. We can't be up here forever because we got games coming up later. But thank you to the panel. You guys were excellent. Right now, we'd like to call up 3 of the most successful coaches in league history. I want to read off some of these numbers for you here. Thomas Paternitti, 2-time champion, has an all-time win percentage of .696 in 46 games. Max Paul has a .690 win percentage in 42 games. And Frank Gooden has a .649 win percentage in 77 games. So Frank Gooden, Max Paul, and Thomas Paternitti, if you could come to the stage, please. We can get this coaches panel rolling.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, he needs to go. Can you go get Frank, please? Where's Mighty? Oh, you know what? He's interviewing. There we go. Just waiting for the SFL podcast to wrap up an interview. We'll have people at the stage in a moment. Again, send in your questions through Discord DM to me. I can read them off here on the stage. Thank you. So up on the stage to my left on camera, I think, Thomas Paternitti of the former Minneapolis Maulers. Frank Gooden, second in all-time wins, I think, at this point. Is that true, Frank?
I think so, and if it's not, I'll claim it.
Frank Gooden. And your current season 10 champion, who I believe might have been simming some games last night in the hotel room, Max Paul?
No, John and I played a game head-to-head.
Oh.
I was testing out some stuff for season 12.
Okay, there you go. Testing out some stuff for season 12. So, Max, make sure you're into the mic, man.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
you
kinda
can
far
move it.
off.
You can move it closer.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. The first question is from James Klein. He says, T-Pat, when are you returning to destroy everyone once again? Or better yet, mauling everyone?
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay, and in that vein, from Anonymous, when will you take over as Indy's head coach and lead them to a championship?
Yeah, real anonymous there.
No response?
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
This is from Ryan Davidson. He says, question for the coaches. How much time do you spend getting a proper playbook ready for a game? And I'll add to that, just what is your specific preparation in the way that you might prepare for an opponent? We could start why don't we start with Mighty down the end?
Now, is he asking weekly or off-season leading into a season? Because those are two different processes.
Ready for a game, so I'm guessing
Okay.
during the week.
At least the way I operate, I go back and look at my prior game to see what worked and what didn't. What didn't work, I kind of try to assess why it didn't. If it failed miserably, we kind of burned the tape at that point. That play never existed. And then we follow that up by checking out. At least for myself, I go back as far back as 4 games for the team I'm about to face to make sure I have kind of a very good grasp on the type of stuff they like to do, both offensively, defensively, and then we just dive in and try to assert our identity while also making sure that we're not putting ourselves in harm's way by trying to be over aggressive. I don't know if that's a term I could use. And then conversely, at least for me on the defensive side, I try to make their life miserable by taking away what they like to do and force them to do what they don't want to do. Kind of, take away their strength and let's see if their weakness can beat us. So far, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I think you'll find you'll hear a lot of us say sort of similar things. We start with scouting our opponent. And you have to make sure that you scout your opponent well. And often how well you do depends on how well you can identify what your opponent likes to do or does well. And so we usually scout. We usually start with scouting. Shout out to Daquan Hale right now. He's our head scout for the Pride, and he does an outstanding job. And then from there, we identify the things that we like to do. There are some core things that the Pride like to do no matter what, and we're going to be bullish about whether or not you push us off those things or not. But if we make a determination that, hey, this team has the ability to hurt us in some ways, if we try to do things anyway, then we'll sort of make adjustments and adjust the playbook. And, again, success is about how well you can put that playbook together to get the CPU to do what it is that you want to do, what you want to execute. So yeah, I think you'll hear a lot of us say these similar things, and then it's just a matter of how much time you have to put into that. So week to week, that sort of depends. How much you want to win, how badly you want to win, kind of gets into that as well, and whether or not your evaluation of the opponent, all that comes into play and how much time you spend. But total time between myself and maybe the scouts, it could range from in a week from 3, 4, 5, 6 hours all the way up to maybe 10, maybe a little more, just prepping and doing everything that you need to do to try to get that win on the weekend.
So all right, so when I first started playing the game, I had no idea what would work in terms of simulation versus simulation. So I spent a ton of time. I had like a spreadsheet. I would run plays like 20 times in practice mode, simulation versus simulation. Every time I run the play, I would record like how many yards it gained. If it was a fumble or an interception, I would count it as like -10 yards and all this stuff. So I kind of got a good idea of what plays work and don't work. From week to week, I do a lot of what these guys said. When I had a lot of time, what I would do is I would watch 2 full games and basically make my opponent's playbook. And then I would have my team and their playbook, and I would have my opponent's team and their playbook, so I could run sims against my opponent. But the basic thing on offense, you kind of see what they're trying to do. Are they trying to, play a lot of deeper zones? Are they trying to play a lot of man coverage? Things like that. I definitely pay attention to whether they're in their base set, their nickel, their dime, because those are, if you come out in 3 wide receivers, you're getting their nickel defense. If you come out in 4, you're getting their dime defense. If you come out in 2, you're getting their base defense. Those are usually different defenses, so you can't just look generally at what they're trying to do. You have to be at least specific to the particular package about what they're trying to do. So, for example, some teams will run tight man coverage against 3 wide receivers. If you put man beater plays in your base package, that's not going to help you at all because it's not going to see the right defense, so to speak. So I do that. On defense now, I will usually watch my opponent. I'll also watch base, nickel, and dime, see what offense they're trying to run from each set, which things I think are the most dangerous. I'll adjust my line stunts for each set. If I want to force a certain play in a sub package, then I'll maybe only put 1 or 2 or 3 plays in that whole package. Like I might only have 3 plays in my nickel package. That way I know I'm getting a specific play if I think it's the best play against their combination. So that's kind of what I look at. What are the combination of plays they're going to use on offense in a particular sub package? What do I think is the most dangerous? Is it going to be stretch runs? Do I need to adjust my line stunt to make sure that no matter what happens, I take away those? So you kind of do that stuff. I have it's not a spreadsheet, but it's like a Microsoft Word file with all my playbook in it, and then I go through and I usually make notes while I'm watching my own game about what I like about what we did. Sorry. So I'll go through the Microsoft Word file, and I'll highlight something in blue if I want to take it out, or something in yellow if I want to put it in, and so on. It's just kind of a way to keep myself organized, so I know what plays are going in or coming out. So that's kind of what I do every week.
Thanks, guys. This question is from Frozen Clutch from New Orleans, and he says, this is for Max Paul. How do you plan on keeping the hunger of winning when you have everyone aiming for you, and how do you just not settle for "I got one championship"?
I'm going to quote Pat Riley on this. There's winning and then there's misery. I don't want to be miserable. That's all I need. That's for that. Like, there's nothing to add to that. That's it. Like, when I lose, I remember every single last one of my losses. Every last one. The wins, no, not really. The losses, they're like almost, like the losses kind of scar me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I could look back and be like, man, that stinking loss. Like, I still remember losing to T-Pat when I was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore, because my receiver decided to not catch a pass. They'll leave bobble the pass right to Minneapolis Mauler defender, and then they just marched down the field, kicked the field goal, and we lost in overtime. Like, I still remember that, and that was, 4 seasons ago? Like, I remember losses. Wins, whatever.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, this is a question for all 3 of you guys. Can you tell us a little bit about overreacting after a loss? Like, are you looking to make maximum changes? Are you just comfortable with maybe knowing the situation's going to change, so you don't overreact too much and make too many changes? And also, at a certain point, do you think the time that you put in has a negative effect? Like, you're just being too overly analyzing what happened in the last game, and at some point you put actually too much time into it, double check yourself.
Steven, I got you. I'll speak first on that because this past season was exactly what occurred. We go front page, Twitch, we whip out the electric blue uniform, we looking good, and first play of the game, Optimus drops a diving pass right to San Antonio. I believe it was Jared Olsen, right into his hand. Like, literally, he dove, ball hits his hands. Okay, not too bad. We get the ball back. Ron gets hit. It hits our offensive lineman in the back. A defensive lineman gets a pick. We're like, whoa. So that's 2 picks now. And then we're driving down the field to take the lead. We're on the goal line. We call pair slot, play action, tight end fly. Generic tight end wide open on the left side of the end zone. Bobbles that pass right into B.J. Armstrong's hands, who goes 105 yards for a touchdown. That's how we lose the game. So now I ridiculously overcompensate. Who do we play the next week? San Francisco Sharks. 5 picks by Ron. We lose that game by 7. And it's like, so yes, there can be times when fluke plays, as I just explained, 3 interceptions that make no sense. That any other time those are catches, routine plays, keep going, nothing happening. Those 3 plays made me overcompensate against San Fran. So I removed all the plays which those 3 plays happened. And so now San Fran was just sitting on the deep passes, and that's all we had left in our playbook, and 5 interceptions later. So after that, it was just the next 5 weeks, because that was week 7. The next 5 weeks was me just paring down the playbook and just honing in onto what Ron and the offense can do well, and the rest is history.
So yeah, I think experience with the game definitely helps you with sort of making a decision on whether or not you can overcompensate or not. Because there'll be times, every situation is different. There'll be times when you need to make a dramatic change, based on what you see, and then there are times when you need to sort of look at the sim and say, or look at the game and say, a couple things happen that were just out of our control, and we don't necessarily have to change a whole lot. So experience teaches you that. I would say with the newer coaches, the rookie coaches that we have and rookie owners, to study your games and just stay in hard, understand what you're trying to do, and you can make a determination on whether or not you need to change. If you have a rule of thumb, I'd say go slow with your changes, because this game is much like the NFL game. Some crazy things happen in real life in the NFL. Stuff that you never guessed would happen in NFL games happen. Same thing with this game in the SFL. So it happens, but experience will sort of inform your decisions on what you should do when crazy things happen in the game.
Okay, I got a good question here from Jeremy Vega. We're just trying to get as many questions in as we can before we move to the next panel. What qualities separate top-tier coaches who have high win percentages like yourselves and championships from lower-tiered coaches? Just in your mind. Obviously, you can't speak to what everyone else's success is, but you guys do watch game film, and you guys do plan and strategize against these teams. So is there anything specifically that you guys kind of notice?
I'd say attention to detail is a big one. Just putting work in to see what plays work and against what formations they work. Having honestly the biggest thing, and Tim Johnson, he's not Crabs anymore.
Vultures.
I'm dating myself. One thing he was always a big proponent of is that most of your success is made before you ever take the field in the way that you build the roster. I think having a cohesive team philosophy on what you want to do on offense, what you want to do on defense, and really building the roster to suit that is incredibly important and sometimes overlooked.
Yep. all of what you said, T-Pat, in addition to how far you're willing to go in that prep, how just the one to win. I mentioned it when I answered the first question. How far are you willing to go to win? In the championship game, Mighty made a joke on the podcast that, hey, he was falling asleep on Sims. So definitely attention to detail, the willingness to do what you need to shape up. And then I would say experience with the 2K8 engine, the actual plays, because you have to realize this is a simulation. It's not the actual NFL. And while NFL concepts they do translate extremely well, not every single NFL in real life concept translates exactly the same in this game. So you've got to understand how to, through experience, how to know when to apply an NFL concept and how it's going to shape up or shake out in the SFL game. So the actual playbook experience with the playbook as well is sort of making the difference between winning coaches or winning organizations and those that haven't stacked up those wins yet.
We're gonna have 2 more questions, and I already have them in the queue. This, I guess, would either be for Marty or Frank, because you guys have been kind of in the next era of the SFL. It says, can you speak to the value of coaching and giving newer coaches in the league a chance, as well as how players getting involved on the staff level can help your team and the league? And I suppose that could translate into scouts and assistants and all sorts of things as well. Do either of you have a passionate response on that?
I gladly would take anybody under my wing that wants to learn the game and take some off my plate. Like, you'd have to leave the hyenas. I don't think you're. We can't leave. No, the hyenas have to exist. So I'm sorry. No, Damon, no. But yeah, just. At this point, nobody beats Alaska. We do not have a losing record against any franchise in the SFL currently, so we're good. But I will gladly take anybody under, you know what I'm saying, that anybody that wants to jump on and learn, because, well, if you don't have the game, at least understanding concepts and packages that you see on the field, yeah, dude, like, that's the step. Like, if you don't understand that, you can't be an owner. Like, because you won't know if the coach is under you or turning in playbooks that make sense. Like, they might be turning in a bunch of junk, but if you don't understand what works and what doesn't offensively and defensively, you won't have a respectable franchise. And that, to me, we can't have that. Like, there's entertaining. Like, nobody wants to watch drubbings. There's no enjoyment winning or losing drubbings. Like, don't mistake. I'm sorry. I got to get off my chest. Yeah. Don't mistake activity for productivity. Those aren't the same thing. Just because you're moving around a lot doesn't mean you're doing a lot. Like, make your time matter. Put in work. Like T-Pat said, details. Oh, Shannon and I have a saying, don't keep your money on the bench. If you have stars, make sure you use them. If you don't use them, why'd you even pick them up to begin with?
Real quick, 30 seconds to answer the question. So we are very intentional on the Pride about empowering players or people on our team to participate, because the more you can split up those duties with people who are passionate about it, the better you're going to work together as an organization. So, you know, I mentioned Taquan Hale. He volunteered. He wanted to be a scout. He embraced it, and the guy is awesome. If he continues, he's setting himself up to become a coordinator one day, a coach one day. Same thing with Christian Christensen. He's our GM, taking on more responsibilities. So we're just very intentional because there is a synergy, working together, working off other people's strengths and weaknesses, that when it comes together, you can really, you're not only helping your organization, but then when they move on, and it's a part of the way the league works, when they move on to another team, they can bring that, help bring their skills that they've developed to another team. And then when they move on themselves, it's totally preparing them for ownership and coaching in the future.
This is the last question. I thought this was a great one to end on. This is from Dwayne Schindler. He says, who is your toughest opponent, and do you prepare for them any differently than other teams?
My toughest opponent, I think, is Eric Barkley. I don't know if I prepare for them differently than any other team, but they're tough because they do a lot of things well, and they're also pretty balanced, so there's nothing you can just hone in on and say, oh, if I just shut this down, I'm going to beat them. They have a lot of weapons. You just kind of roll the percentages and hope for the best.
Yeah. Quickly for me, I think our toughest opponent is this man to my right here. We've only played Alaska once, and you got us. And, you know, you definitely showed what it takes to, you know, you demonstrated what it takes to actually to win the big games. And so we've learned from that. And, you know, we want to scar you up next time we play. We want to give you some of those scars, bro. But I would say Alaska for right now. We've had some rivalries, really nice rivalries with other teams in the past. We haven't really prepared any differently. But when it comes to, you know, so that upper level competition that Mighty represents, yeah, we're going to have to do some things differently to pull the win out.
That marker's moved throughout the seasons for me. Initially, it was Steven and those stinking Roughnecks. Still remember that season 7 playoff game. I'm still mad at Mike Dazzle for throwing that pick on the goal line. Just saying. then we kind of honed in and made a decision we wouldn't lose to Dallas. So that kind of moved to Mexico City, and my kicking brother from another mother that I'm sad couldn't make the trip. Ramos, we kind of hopefully said that properly now, but there's a team that's back in the West. I didn't want to see him back in the West. Like, I love the ownership group, love my dude AJ, but Sioux Falls, they're just a thorn in our side. All our games come down to the wire, are ridiculously exciting for the viewers. They're not exciting for me. For me, like, they're like, you kick off return in overtime to lose? Like, really? Like, who planned? I can't plan for that. That's just special teams. So yeah, Sioux Falls right now. Sioux Falls is it.
All right, thank you, awesome coaches throughout the league history, for coming up here. Now I ask that the owner panel come up here. James Klein from Carolina, Stephen Molinex from Dallas, James Richards from Indianapolis, and is Mark Chisholm here? Anybody seen Chisholm this morning? No? No, all right. Well, then these three then. Again, we'll take your questions through Discord DM relating to these owners. And this is, let me explain just a little bit why these owners are up here, because they all do their job differently. And these guys are the guys that excel in really getting their players to buy in and to almost become part of the brand almost. And they really do a great job of interacting with them and taking care of them, but they do that in all sorts of different ways. So I would just first like to get the perspective of the three of you as to how do you go about doing that, and what has worked and what hasn't for you in the past to help really build team camaraderie.
Yeah, it's really, first of all, it's about your passion for your own team. I think that's where it really starts. I mean, if you're passionate about the game and fully embrace, that's something that I had trouble with initially, is that I'm kind of a little bit with the old guard in the sense that I really felt like this league had weight from non-star players, from these what I call legacy players, and it really gave the league history and weight. And I really didn't see initially how involving user players and it was really going to impact the game, and having losing control as an owner as we've progressed as far as determining abilities and attributes and those kind of things. But it's been really wonderful, and embracing that as an owner first, I think that was the first step. And then secondly, communication. I mean, just constantly being on there and being available to your players, answering their questions is a lot of our job too. But also, I like the hype of the season. I like to have a nice presentation, and I in the communications that we do, we try to do graphics and we try to do things to hype up those players. And you put in all this work, maybe you Photoshop or you do whatever, and you're doing it for 12 guys. And I think that translates the excitement, that they see what you're willing to do for them, and that reciprocates.
For me, it's about people. About any job that I've had in the past, I've always had to work with people. I've managed a lot of people in the past, and I've always noticed that if you empower them to see your vision, that they'll take it and run with it. Especially as far as like my coaches I've had. I know Andy and Shan, they can pretty much tell you that I sort of tell them what I want to do, and they come up with the way to do it. And so far, every coach that I've had has done that, and I just sit back and make sure that that the playbook looks good. I don't want to make no mistakes for Cam, because I know his job is very demanding, and so just pretty much let them run with it and make sure it's okay. And that's my enjoyment, is just the management part of it.
I think for Indianapolis, the things that we've done, that you hear the old adage, surround yourself with good people and they'll rub off on you. And I think our ownership group, for a majority, and then being exposed to Cam and Destro and DPP, people of high character and value, that rubs off, right? And so for Indy, what I've tried to do, being one of the newer owners, is really learn from what the other 20-something people in our higher echelons have done. With our player graphics, Dallas does that pretty good. And we said, well, if they're doing it well, we got to do it well. And then James Klein, how he interacts with his people, he's very loving, very supportive and embracive. I think I said that right. Embrace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know English too well. Second language. Woo. But I just try to show my guys that I'm here to win. We're not going to lay down for anybody. I'm gonna work harder than anybody has. Whether it's just blind work or I actually know what I'm doing. To be determined. But I'm going to work hard, and we just want to win. And so I try to take the best from everybody. I try to show my guys that I care about them, and I want what's best for the team, the franchise, and hopefully that comes out. And I've got a good group of people helping me along the way, so I'm very grateful for the people that we have in Indianapolis.
This question from Jeremy Vega. All three owners have top GMs in the league. Dallas has Crash Combs, who just missed out on a team of his own. James Richards has Tom Pepper, one of the most active people in the league. James Klein has A.J. Francis, who was nominated to the competition committee. The question is, so how do you think the GM role is taking shape in the SFL, and where do you see it going in the future?
I think as an owner, it's important to. I think Jermaine mentioned this in his part of the panel, but is preparing them to own a team, and not only the coaching part, but also, putting a build together or putting a roster together. To me, that is very important, and AJ has just took off with it. And when he signed up with us, he went directly to me. He said, "Look, I want to be a GM." And he said, "Do you foresee that happening?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Let's get through the season, and then we'll start talking about stuff." And this season, he's just put an amazing team together in my eyes.
Yeah, I think for Indianapolis, it was a blessing to get a guy like Tom Pepper from Vancouver. Tom, from day one, has showed his enthusiasm. He has shown his passion and love for the league, and that's something that I've tried to show since day one as well. But for me, when we look at ourselves top to bottom in our organization, we say, all right, well, what are the top owners in the league doing? Because that's what I need to be doing as an owner. What are the top coaches doing in the league? Because that's what I need to be doing as a coach. And then, Tom came in and he embraced that. And he said, well, what are the top GMs doing from the last season? Because that's really when we started adding GMs in. And he's taken that up and ran with it. And he has been a blessing. Because as the league continues to evolve and the ownership role and the coaching roles evolve, you need a guy that's got your back and syncs up with you and has that synergy to continue what your philosophy is. If my philosophy is we need to learn from the best and my GM doesn't share that philosophy with me, it's not going to work. And I just really appreciate Tom and his enthusiasm for going out. And I appreciate everybody else's GMs because they help guide Indianapolis in the right direction. And both these guys have great GMs. Frank's got a great GM. The league's really the teams around the league have really put the trust in the right guys because we've got 21 teams with 21 really good general managers. And so I think the league's in good hands as we move forward in the future, and I'm excited to see what the rest of the teams do.
Yeah, my reasons are very selfish. I don't want Crash Combs to have his own team because that means he wouldn't be on mine. And no, I'm just kidding. Obviously, I want the best for him. And actually, we have an assistant GM, Ray West, who is next in line. I mean, we're ready for the next couple seasons for sure. So, but no, selfish. I want that partnership. I didn't know that I wanted it until I had it. and to have these partners with me that are, they get another level of detail that the players don't. And we have our own Discord channel, and we talk about things on our team that aren't generally discussed. And it used to be a solo mission with me as an owner and a GM and as a coach, and now I can't imagine having as much fun as I'm having now without people like Crash Combs and Ray West to share in our victories and our defeats. They really just help you carry the load on both ends of it, and I don't think there's a reason an owner should not have a GM on their team, because it just adds so much to the experience.
All right, this question, and I believe it'll be our last here for the owners panel. It says, from an owner's perspective, how can the league improve, and where do you see the future heading?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think the convention is the perfect experience, at least for me, for where we're going. I had an opportunity to sit side by side with Michael Irvine as our two teams played against each other, and we got to trade barbs, and we got to shake hands, and we got to hug each other, and we got to celebrate in each other's face. And that kind of connectivity, I think, is the future of this league. We've talked about before, owners camming up during games. We get to see reaction. Players camming up during games. We get to see their reactions to their players. I think that's the next step, and possibly where we're going. If that can be done, it's just to be, bring it, the viewership, have a more personal level, and realize that these are actual real people that are on the field and real stakes to these guys, and it's important. And really their passion shines through. I love the experience that I had this weekend, and I hope that we can figure out a way to share that in the future.
My perspective on the league, where it is, where it was, and where it's going in the future comes from a very business-like approach. For me, it's inevitable that we are going to move to a more profitable system. It has to. If we want to continue to grow, if we want to continue to legitimize our league as a reputable and the standard for sim football and the sim community, then it's just something we have to do. And as owners, it's our responsibility to take care of the league in a manner that promotes its wellness, its health, its financial stability. And so if an owner or a GM or a prospective owner or prospective GM, if they don't have the league's best interest in mind, don't show up, because you're either going to not get your team or you're going to get weeded out very quickly. Because right now we have a majority of a group of guys who really want to see this thing go further, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to get it there. So, if you're not there mentally right now and you don't think you ever will be, then don't go to that level. Don't even try to get there, because we're going to push you out. And I think that's the direction the league's going. It's going to get better. It's going to get stronger. It's going to get faster. The owners are going to get better. The coaches are going to get better. The GMs are going to get better. And that's going to trickle down all the way down to our player base and even our fans that don't want to play or don't want to coach. So I see this operating at a high level as a business, and I'm really excited for the future of the league, and I'm really excited to see where these owners and coaches are in a few seasons from now.
I think the biggest key is communication. When you get that the message from somebody that's maybe looking at joining your team, talk to them, communicate with them. And also, one last thing is, for me as an owner, if I'm asked about another team, even if they're my arch rival like Baltimore or Tallahassee, I'll say, look, that's a good organization to go to if you can't come to us. So, support each other. It just pays off in the long run.
All right, thanks to our owners panel. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Next up, broadcasters. Is Colin Northrup here? No? Yeah, I think I got a text from him. He might be a little late. Mike Daggs. Michael Torillo. Michael Torillo. Yeah, he's watching the game. If you have any question on the broadcasting side of things, interested in getting involved, wanting to know how what makes it all tick, you can send those messages through Discord DM. Or if you just want to get thoughts from these two mics up here.
That's right. It's time for the Mike and Mike show. Here we go.
Almost not funny.
Both of these guys, while I wait for some questions to come in, both of these guys, to my recollection, you want to take North's spot?
Come on up.
Come on, Damon. Hey, test that microphone and see if it's working, because it
Which one?
kind of went out on Steven, the one down there.
Testing. 1 2 1 2. Testing.
It's quiet.
Got it?
All right.
Okay. All three of these guys, as far as I know, had never called a sports game before. Had you, Mike?
I'd done some baseball work in high school, but I'd never called a football game before.
So they had never called a football game before. We put them on our air, and really tried to improve them. And honestly, Torillo specifically, he was incredible from the first time we put him on the air. I couldn't believe how good he was for not ever doing a football game before, and then having to do one that's a video game. Totally a different thing. Mike Daggs got promoted after 6 months of being here. Matt Wilson in front booing.
Is there security here?
And Damon Simeon, just with his enthusiasm, just wants to get involved with almost every single part of the league. And when he first started, was Season 5 championship game your first game? Yeah. And it became a tradition for Damon to drive from Houston to either San Antonio or Dallas, where I was, to call that championship game in person. And that was always just kind of a fun moment for the season, because I knew Damon was on the road, and that meant that was championship day. So these guys all can share their experiences just on the production side, and just the out of the enjoyment of calling games. So I think Steven has the first question.
Okay, this is for all of you. What can you describe what your preparation for a game is like, and what you are doing or plan on doing in order to improve?
It's different for the week 1 games versus later on in the season. Week 1, there's obviously no prior stats for the season because it's just starting. So I look at the previous season and try to see, what players were already on that team, what their total season stats were for the previous season, which players came in from other teams. Did the build change? Did they maybe not have a star tight end last season and now they do? Who did they get rid of in order to make that opening for a new star position? And just try to figure out what has changed, what's different, what worked last season, what's worth mentioning. Are there any interesting stats? Is there somebody that's maybe close to breaking 1,000 yards in the season, and they're 75 yards away, and then we rely on our stats team to keep tracking how many yards they have, and all right, that last catch that put them over the top, so that you have something relevant to talk about, and you're not just simply stating what everybody else already sees happening. Even as play-by-play, you also want to be able to add in some extra elements to make it more of an interesting broadcast and not just simply saying what you see. So you want to try to get some of those stats and have everything ready to go in front of you. I've got 3 monitors at home, and I wish I could get 3 more and have stats and figures and stuff all around me so that there's always something relevant to talk about. But it's mainly just data mining is really how you prepare and just get everything together where you're able to reference it during the game.
For me, I approach every game preparation the same way in 3 distinct phases. First phase I call my grunt work phase. Get all the players' names on the sheet, get all their stats on the sheet, and that takes me an hour or 2. Then I go into the personal preparation phase. I try to think about something interesting to say about every single player. So when they make a play, you can add on something like, good throw, it was a good catch along the sideline by the guy that's in his 2nd season here, had a good 1,000-yard receiving season last year, he's looking to improve this year. Something like that for every single star player. And then writing the intros that I do, I script them out so I know what to say, getting keys to the game down. relevant stats to talk about for both teams, records, things like that, things that Bagger's talking about. The third phase is collaboration phase. I talk to my broadcast partner, it's Levant or James or anybody else, and we kind of run through what I've done and what they've done, and collab and talk about our overarching themes we want to talk about during the game, and just get ready to have the best broadcast possible.
Okay, so me now, I pretty much do everything these guys did.
Attaboy, Jamon. That's
Mike,
what I like to hear.
Mike pretty much broke it all down. I mean, the same thing that Mike says, that's basically what I do, get stats, get information on these guys. Like I said, it's hard for season one because you don't have any, for game one, at the beginning of the season, because you don't have any stats. So you got to go off previous season information and so forth. But I try to wing it, because I feel that by me winging it and not writing anything down, make it, trajectory or recycle or so. So I try to just use my own personal, character within myself and my own persona and so forth, and bring it to life through the video game and so forth. And I take a lot of, pride in it and so forth. And I thank Cam so much for taking my my offer for season 5. And I just posted in the comments when I found out that he lived in San Antonio. I'll drive 3 hours to do a broadcast game with you. Why not? So and then so he called me up. He's like, "Hey, are you serious?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" I'm dead serious. So, like I said, we made it a tradition. Unfortunately, I missed season 10 because I started a new job, and my wife was like, "Nope, you're not going. You're not missing work."
She has spoken.
So, but I guarantee season 11 championship, I will be there. Okay.
And to Damon's point too, and Torillo's, we talk about scripting some of it. Like, normally this is up on another screen, but I have the opening script that I do. I do script that part out just so I can remember what I was talking about or what I wanted to talk about with, previous records or how they did the previous week, and that way it has a nice flow to the opening of the game. But from there, to Damon's point, you do just kind of wing it, because otherwise you don't want to come off sounding like you're just reading a paper.
Or recycled.
Exactly. So you do, to a certain extent, wing it and just mention things throughout the game. And, or like when the power went out during the playoff game and the screen went dark on us, and we got all sorts of bits. But, we print out the rosters or have them up on the screen, and, all the user player names, their numbers, positions, heights, weights, how long they've been with the team, how long they've been in the league, previous teams they were on, and then any of the interesting stats that we want to mention, all just right there ready to go. And I really wish I had my screens with me so I didn't have to kill all these trees, but sacrifices had to be made.
This is from Genev. He asked me, how are you always on, quote unquote, and how do you handle it when you have to commentate and you're having a bad day? I think that if I'm having a bad day, the way I look at it is that at 7 o'clock, I have no idea what everyone else's days have been. Their days may have been great days. Their days may have been bad too. I don't know what's been going on in their day. My day wasn't very good. But if I take that into the broadcast booth, if I don't give it the 100% that I can, then I could take their day and make it and lower their expectations for how their day was going to go. Oh, Cam's on the call. It's a big game. This is going to be super exciting. And if I don't deliver, they're like, man.
Can you imagine if we just heard, all right, kick it? I would be crushed,
Their day just got a little bit worse. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal, right? That's the expectation. And so because I don't know what's going on in everybody else's life, I always have to bring it for them. And so and I would give that advice to all the commentators, is that when you go on the air, everybody is excited. They're hopeful. They want to see and hear a great game, and you can't let personal effects hurt their experience, because now you're just taking your emotions and you're giving them to somebody else.
And see, for me, when I'm first off, I joined the SFL to have fun, right? So I think everybody did. If you didn't, then I'd kind of like to know why you joined. But I mean, that's why we're here, is to have a good time. And you know, if you're having a bad day and I'm getting ready to call a game, it makes my day better anyway. But on top of that, you know, when I'm getting ready to broadcast, I always just try to put myself kind of into a zone. I mean, first off, I broadcast from a room in my basement that's sealed off from the rest of the house, and you know, I just kind of go down there, start focusing on the game, and really block everything else out anyway. So, you know, if I'm having a rough day and I'm getting ready to broadcast, that's the only thing on my mind at that point. And I start to envision myself as if I'm actually in the booth up there in Denver, like I'm about to do here in hopefully an hour or two. And otherwise we'll need to talk because I got a flight. So, but moving on. You know, so yeah, you really just kind of focus on the game and block everything else out, and that's what matters. And to Cam's point, you want to put on a good broadcast and not bring in outside elements into it. So,
sorry, Mike. Did you have something?
Yeah.
To say?
For me, my broadcasting persona is just that. It's a persona. A lot of people, I was startled, kind of, when I was talking to people when I first got here, and then I told them who I was. They were like, I had no idea. Because I have this persona that I project on air, and it's different from who I am in my daily life, and I can separate those two people. So if the daily life's having a bad day, you know, you slip into the broadcasting skin, and then there you go. You know, you want to make everybody else feel good who's listening to you.
Yeah, but I was one of the ones who didn't know who this guy was. Yeah. And when he started, you know, commentating yesterday, and I was like, wait a minute. You're you. That's who you are, you know, because as he say, his persona, his voice is totally different over the air than when he's having a regular conversation with you. But to answer the question, I live in a house with two women, my daughter and my wife, and they tick me off at times, and I do have bad days. But man, once you hit that start stream button and you get into it, dude, everything else is quiet. You know, I'm in my zone. My wife and my daughter are away from me. And only thing I think about is putting on the best show that I can for those who is listening to me, because I never want a negative comment as, hey, this guy is boring, you know, and then that gets back to the commissioner, and it makes the league itself looks bad because I'm dry on the air when I'm supposed to be expressing myself to the audience, you know. So that's why I broadcast with so much energy and so much enthusiasm. You know, and I take things from other broadcasters as well, who use a lot of enthusiasm, in, you know, in my commentating.
So you should tune into the Indianapolis game. There might be too much hype for one stream.
As you can tell, my voice is already hoarse, so yeah. I'm looking forward to losing it for good.
20 minutes. An anonymous question for Mike. Mike, being the leader of the broadcast team, is kind of like being the parent of a family. Who's your favorite broadcaster, and why is it Andy Hamilton?
Well, Andy is my favorite real son, but no, I'm kidding. No, there is no favorites. What kind of question is that from the anonymous Andy Hamilton? I can see his phone. It's in my peripheral vision. You know, I
Moving on.
Yeah, let's
moving
skip
on.
That one.
This is the last question of our broadcast panel, and we got to wrap up because we got to get players up here, and then we got to get these games going. Hunter Jones asks, how much prep work goes into memorizing the rosters from the teams you're calling? And I think just in general, how much effort is put in, you know, on your side to make sure that that your calls are great.
Yeah, it's tough memorizing all the rosters. That's why, you know, we do always keep them with us, especially the non-user players. I mean, there's just too many of them. But with the user players in particular, you know, I like to read through them all over and over and over, especially the pronunciations and making sure I'm getting those pronunciations right and that they're fresh in my head. You know, how many different corners there are, how many linebackers there are, just so that you can have that information ready to go, and you know who the quarterback is, who the running back is. Those are the two that are going to be touching the ball the most. You know, you want to make sure you have those names right and right at the tip of your tongue, ready to go. You know, how long does it take? You know, usually, honestly, it's right before the game starts. Within the half hour beforehand, I just start reading through it over and over and over. So, you know, saying the names out loud, so that I've been saying them for a little while, and now I'm ready to go. And Damon says you click start streaming, you're in that zone, and they're already up there in your head ready.
Yeah. For me, for a 2-hour game every week, I will spend a minimum of 5 hours on preparation by myself. That's not including time I spend with Levant working on stuff together, just getting everything ready. And I'll do it. I'm in college, so I'll pull out my laptop and do some work between classes or after I get home at night. And it's a passion for us as well as it is for you guys watching. So it's part of the enjoyment is working on the pregame stuff.
My preparation is just to make sure that I have all the correct information, on one of my screens and so forth. And I, go over names and trying to make sure I have the correct pronunciation for them, because I am horrible with names and I'm great with faces.
Montague.
Hey, I figured that out, that he didn't have an A at the end of it later on in the show. So, for some people, it's easy for them to read the chat. Me, I don't like being distracted, so I don't
stop heckling, Wilson.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the chat because I don't want to be distracted, like I stated. But preparation, you have to be on cue with it and so forth, and make sure that you got the right stuff on your screen and so forth. That's just about it.
Thank you to our broadcasters up here, sharing their knowledge and passion for what they do. We appreciate everything. Our last panel of the day is our players panel. We have Matt Wilson, the quarterback of Mexico City, A.J. Levy of Sioux Falls, Ron Cochran of Alaska, and Nathan Blake of London. And I'm going to bring in one extra spot and share a mic here so I can get these questions out to these guys. Give us just a couple minutes to set up.
Eat that mic. You can take him. Yep. Oh. Yes. Take it. Oh, I have no voice right now. What kind of mic is that? SM. Oh, it's SM58. And I got high quality microphones here.
All right, so the first question that comes from our panel is from Tom Pepper. And Tom Pepper asks, who are your role model players both on and off the field and why? I'm assuming he means in the SFL, so let's see what we have to say.
All right, well, I'll go first. I'm Nathan Blake, free safety with London. I came in the league just recently as a rookie. Was fortunate enough to get picked up. But see, one of the games that I watched, first games I watched, was a game where I saw a guy named Aaron Arrington make a couple of interceptions in a pretty important game. So when I got picked up free safety, I'm like, well, if I'm gonna get out there and try and mold myself somewhat after him, I do believe he's the owner of New Orleans now. Yeah, that's it. All the players I've seen in the league and what everybody's built their players to be is pretty awesome. And how welcoming the whole league's been. A guy like me new to it. So, but yeah. So, there's plenty of great players out there, but that's one guy that definitely sticks out to me. Me being in the defensive secondary.
Mine would be Matt Wilson. When I seen him play, Hall of Famer. Yes. I'm only in the league for this is my third year. In my very first year, Mighty, He said, you got to look at this. So I went and watched 2 games, and I went back to him and said, hey, you need a new quarterback.
That's for
And
sure.
From there on.
On the field, I would have to go 2, because when I first started watching the SFL, these 2 guys really stood out to me. Koma Kaleka, Perk Hicho. Off the
Oh.
field, I have to go with Matt Wilson. This guy is full of character. And you know what? I have much, much respect for this guy.
Yes.
Well, when I got into the league, there were pretty much very little user players, so I have to go with Rocco Marconi because that's the guy I wanted to model my game after, a guy that would, no matter what the score, just comeback after comeback after comeback. And now I'm the active SFL leader in comebacks the 4th quarter. So I say, I modeled my game after him and, closing in on him.
Next question comes from Steven, and I have just a small piggyback on it as well. He asks if any of you aspire to own your own team one day. I know Matt Wilson is a co-owner of Mexico City, and if you don't, are there aspirations just being above a player on a team? Why or why not?
Me, no, I wouldn't want to be an owner. I don't really have the time for it, but I would like to be a coordinator, and that's what I'm shooting for.
I'm actually the one of the scouts for London, so I enjoy it. I do have a busy life as well, full-time job, wife, kids, all that good stuff. So I have a lot of late nights running Sims and stuff like that. But I have a couple Xboxes and one in my man cave space, and actually one in my bedroom. My wife thinks I'm crazy when I I'm in bed at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. She's like, "You watching video games?" I'm like, I got to do work, It's but I do see myself. I don't know if I see myself in ownership quite yet. Take the steps from being a scout to learning what I can and perfecting that, and then moving on to coaching ranks, and hopefully that takes me somewhere.
I pretty much don't have the title of co-owner, but pretty much Jason and I run the organization as if we're co-owners. I'm basically co-owner, GM, scout, everything. So I feel I already have the title. It's just not documented.
You should, darn it. Talk to that man. I am a co-owner. I do all the roster stuff, the manipulation, the kind of the overall game plan of what the makeup's going to look like, and Ramos takes care of the actual playbook. It's kind of frustrating because All Pro is on the 360, and I can't use a controller. I would love to run if it was on a PC and an emulator situation, which down the road I hope so because there's an Xbox emulator, not a 360 one yet. I will have time eventually to run those sims, and I got to rely on him, and he's somewhat unreliable with that. So I got to go what I see on the field. When I built that team in season 9, I just saw what other people were doing. I saw what.
No, and I think the audience would all like to know too, and may end up learning later through interviews and everything. But all 4 of you come from different parts of the country. You're from Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana,
Michigan,
New York,
and New York, right? So all 4 different places of the country, all 4 different age groups, all 4 different jobs and.
Call me old Cam.
And no need to start a fight on the panel, man. Everything's going so well.
Watch your feet, man.
I need my walker.
But my question is, how did you come about the league, and what was it about the league for you specifically that sort of drew you to it, just in the place where you were at in your life? Because everybody's in all different places of their lives, and it means something different to everybody. So I'm just curious as to what that means here for some of our most passionate players.
I pretty much came across All Pro in a discount bin in a store. So I picked it up, took it home, set it on the shelf for a couple of months. Decided, you know what, let me see what this game is all about. So I was like, I wonder if there's a way to expand the rosters or anything, try to create all 32 NFL teams. Went on YouTube, came across Devon Simeon's video on how to create all 32 teams. And from there, I just start jumping through different videos. Came across WAFL videos. And I'm saying to myself, wow, live commentary. So I decided to go on more in depth. Came across SFL videos. Hey, it's the same guy. Sounds even better. Like, I have to see if there's a website. Come across the website. Okay. Trying to catch a live video. Never came across one for a couple of weeks. Then all of a sudden, went and checked the website, caught a date and time, went on Twitch. Rest is history.
Mine, Max Paul, he came up to me and said, hey, would you like to join? I was like, well, I got to look into it. I watched 2 games, and I went back to him. I was like, hey, you need a quarterback. I'm your guy, and everything's history from there.
I do a lot of stuff with retro gaming. I've traveled around the country playing Tecmo Super Bowl. I've won 5 championships doing that. One of my buddies, he has a podcast on YouTube, Retro Sports Gamer, and he mentioned it. It was, I don't know, maybe a week or so after the season 10 championship game. He's like, man, you guys got to check these guys out. They had like 4,000 viewers for that championship game. I'm like, all right, so I looked them up and, looked up the league and, and I started watching and I'm like, and they're commentating these games. I've never seen anything like that before. I'm like, this is amazing, and I heard some of Cam's calls and I can't remember the exact teams, but I do remember the play. It just drew me in. It's like 4th down, like 4 seconds left, and it was a for sure sack, and the quarterback ducks him and throws this touchdown pass, and then Cam loses his mind. I'm like, I have to join this league. I said, these guys have such passion for, for this stuff. And then, once I got involved with it, everybody's been so welcoming and, stuff like that. And, and I've told a ton of people already, I said, this league has something really, really special going on, and I said I have to be, a part of it.
Cam, can you repeat the question for me? I just want to make sure I get the full
Sure.
context.
How did you come about the SFL, and just kind of what was that beginning journey for you?
Well, in the Hall of Fame speech, it was Ryan Moody's like, here, you want to watch some real football? Click here. I'm like, what? So I click on it, and it's like, oh, there's a game. Okay. I knew of 2K5, and I don't play. It's all about what Dags over here wants to play. It's like, I don't want to play this stupid old game. I want to play Madden 10. I got him to play 2K5, and he loved it. Then I got him 2K8. It's like, I can't play this piece of crap. It's got no NFL players in it, and he quit. So I paid $40 for a game and played once. But yeah, and then I heard Cam's golden voice. I can't even do it. My voice is so messed up right now. It's like an angel calling to me. And after that, it was history. I had to join. And when the user draft came up, the first user draft, I'm like, yeah, I got to get in here. But kind of wanted to expand a little bit on that because, and I've just recovered. There's a 1.5-year stretch there between our championship season and the first season I was broadcasting with both of them, that I was pretty much bedridden for the past 18 months. And I was really down. When I do those games, I don't have a couple hours where I could sit up during the day. So when I was broadcasting those games, that was my time I would use to broadcast. And that meant a whole lot because it was something I could really look forward to. And the season we won the championship, most of those games I had to catch on replay because I wasn't allowed to be up. Just couldn't. So always thankful for that.
The last question is, as players, the league has taken great steps and will continue to do so to make sure that the player interaction is where it needs to be to draw you guys in in that passion, and for you guys to be able to share that passion with us. Coaches and owners and general managers and broadcasts and all that. We do a lot of work behind the scenes. We put a lot into it. Players have somewhat of a limited opportunity to get involved just as a player specifically. What are your thoughts as to the player experience and some things and some goals you think the league should have in terms of just drawing them in and giving them as much as we possibly can so that they can be just a player and have an awesome time if they want to?
Well, I think the content, and I know that's the tough part about it all is just keep a lot of content out there. Keep guys engaged, whether it's on the team level, league level, or whatever. I know we have a podcast that goes out and stuff like that league wide, but teams themselves can get keep their players engaged from whether it's social media stuff or locker room stuff or doing things like that. But to keep and that's just for me to just keep some guys from getting disinterested or something like that. Is just having enough content on a weekly basis for them to just stay engaged with it, and league and the website is great, and stuff like that. So I think content in general could be something. What exactly it is and what it could be, I don't know, but more content. I mean, the NFL does it. They have NFL Network. People engage NFL year round. Same thing with baseball. Baseball has their MLB Network. So I think it could be content based, but I think it has to start on a team level first to keep their players engaged, and then maybe go from there.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. And also, I think during games like half times, why don't they try to get like interviews with players to see what they think should go on differently on the second half and stuff like that.
Matt, you want to go ahead?
Oh, sure. On and off on me. I think anytime a player can speak, I think that really makes them more involved. One thing that has gone away, and that's just because Cam's so busy, I don't know anybody else that could host it, was after the Monday night game, or it was Sunday night at the time, we used to have like an hour call-in show, and I remember some of my fondest moments calling in as my persona, saying I was having a great hot tub party with the ladies and the margaritas, and I don't know, that just kept me interested and involved. It allowed me to develop kind of a personality to my player, and anytime you can add personality to your player, it makes you more connected to them.
I feel that the locker rooms from different teams, if they're active and the players are willing to be more immersed inside the league itself as a whole, it doesn't take an individual to help the league. It's a group effort. We have to continue to work together as a community to help things grow.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yes.
Well, thanks to our player panel. Excellent job, everybody. And thanks for joining us here live on YouTube and at the convention. Vancouver and Denver, we're going to try to start first. Dags has a plane to catch, so we want to make sure that they're out of here in plenty of time, just in case Andy wants to have another quadruple overtime, a game in his history. And then Tallahassee and Indianapolis will start very soon after that. That stage is almost ready to go, and Torillo and Dags will be on that call. Or I'm sorry, Torillo and Simeon will be on that call. So stay tuned to the last couple of games of Week 1 on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys very soon.